anglers. We're back here in my garage again, and I've been getting a lot of questions from my last videos that I did on rigging my swim baits, the real simple techniques and stuff that I've shown to exactly how I fish them. And I'm going to go over all the different ways, or my favorite ways that I use to fish the swim baits. And this is going to be mostly on the smaller side. This isn't going to be your big, like, 12-inch, glide baits or anything like that. This is going to be your soft plastics, kind of finessey swim baits. 3 inches to 6 inches, thereabouts. And let's just get right into it. And actually, before we get into it, man, do me a favor: hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and please share the video. If you know anyone who could benefit from this, I love sharing the info, and I'm sharing it with you guys, and trying to grow this channel and all. So let's get right into it. These baits are an all-season bait. You can fish them in the middle of winter, before the water gets hard, to all the 12 months of the year. Spring, summer, fall. I fish them in the wintertime for hybrids and white bass and striper on the Ohio River a lot. Get some sawguy on them. You can catch everything on them. I've caught catfish on them. It's a pretty much do everything bait, And for bass fishing, I find them to be amazing, like search baits. I'm not a real big hard bait guy, so I'm not always going to be throwing like a spinner bait or a bladed jig or anything like that. I mean, I do throw that stuff, but it's not like my strengths. And I'd prefer throwing a swim bait, especially like if the water's clearer. I feel like swim baits in clear water are just dynamite, man. Especially if you dial in to literally matching the hatch, finding what the forage is, whether it's shiners or gizzard shad or whatever it might be. There's always subtle different colors in shad, so it might even be gizzard shad in the same species, but two different lakes of gizzard shad. They might have a little bit of different colors. One might be a little bit of pink, one might be a little bit of silver in a different lake. So matching that, especially on clear water lakes, is super important. And you can get swim baits in any color that you could possibly imagine, from silver, pink, red, blue, black even, And not only are they a finessey bait, but they're also a reaction bait. A lot of times I'll burn them, or I'll work them like a big jerk bait, and I'll be pounding them through trying to get reaction bites. If it's that type of day where it's a reaction bite, I'll do stuff like that with them. And there's subtle differences between all the different swim baits, I've gotten some that are that are a little bit flat-sided, and they wobble almost like a lipless crank, and I think they put out a little bit more vibration. I have other ones with tails that swirl, then I have ones with tails that go back and forth. So you kind of have to buy some different ones and see what ones are working for you. I really like the Strike Kings. I like some of the Bass Pro stuff. Actually, they have some good colors and they're not bad baits. I like some Z-Man stuff. I like Reaction Innovation stuff. I mean, the list goes on and on. I mean, it just really depends what shape and what I'm trying to match. Because everyone has a little bit different colors and stuff, so you can really dial in that, match the hatch. So a big part of swim baits is how you retrieve them and what you're going to do to elicit a bite, because it's not just the action of the soft plastics on a straight retrieve that are going to catch fish every single time. There are going to be times when you're going to want to go out and pause that bait or work it like a jerk bait, and this is where weight comes into a big factor, is in how you're swimming it back to yourself and what depth of water column you want to be at and what type of action you're looking for. So if you're just trying to hug that bottom and swim that and just kind of tick off the bottom every so often, you're going to want a heavier weight. You're going to want like a ½ ounce or heavier. It really just depends how deep you're fishing. If you're fishing a 5-inch swim bait in 20 feet of water, you're going to want to put some lead on that thing, man. You're going to want to put some tungsten on it. You're going to want to get some weight on that to get it down there. How much weight that is, it really depends on how fast you're retrieving, if you want it to be bumping the bottom, or if you want it to be swimming 3 feet over the bottom. these are things that you have to kind of play with to dial in, especially for different swim baits, because if you guys know, like if you put a big Z-Man swim bait on, they're super buoyant. You actually, if you want that thing to be on the bottom, you're going to have to put more weight on it. There's a million different ways to rig them as well. And I have some different rigging videos of the simple ways to do it, and those all work. And this is something that you got to play with, whether you want it weedless, belly weighted, nose weighted. That also plays into a lot of how these things swim. Because like on Dale Hollow, a big thing to do is to get a small football jig and put a swim bait on it and just drag it on the bottom fast enough that the tail's moving, but it's on the bottom and dragging it. You know, that's one way to use a swim bait. There's a million ways to rig them. I personally have had a lot of success, and when I use them for like search baits, is ball-headed jigs. Check out Picasso. They make some great stuff. You'll love their tungsten ball-headed jigs, and all their swim bait jig heads are just phenomenal. And I'll use those for, you know, I like to swim it. I like to cast it really far away and use it like a search bait, almost like you would use like a spinner bait or something else like that, or even like a bladed jig. You know, I like to throw it way out there and retrieve it. So in the different retrieves that I have, so you have the jerkbait action where you're snapping it. I'll use that with a lighter weight, like an 1/8 ounce weight. So it'll rip up, and then it'll have a slower fall down, and then you'll rip it up, and it'll dive down at a little bit slower rate. For my cast and just a straight retrieve, 1/4 ounce is pretty popular with me. I can get that down to 15-20 feet and make it do what I want to do. That's a little light for 20 feet, but in the range above it, it's perfect for me anyway. And everyone's a little different, and you'll find your technique and your reed spiel and how fast you're reeling. You'll figure it out, because you'll get bites or you won't, and that's what's going to help you figure it out. And I also would do, a lot of times, I will do a cast out, retrieve, and I'll pause until it hits the bottom. And then I'll pop it. Retrieve it, let it hit the bottom. Retrieve it, let it hit the bottom. And then just pop it every once in a while. Just having that little pop in there, it'll list a bite sometimes. Sometimes it's on the way up. Sometimes it's when the bait's coming down. So those are my basic ways that I like to retrieve it. And again, that's like reel and pause, straight reel, jerk bait, and then run it like on the bottom. And what helps is having electronics to know where the fish are on the water column. So if you see blips on the bottom, then you're fishing on the bottom or just off the bottom. If you see them at 7 feet in a 20-foot water column, then you notice swimming at 7 feet or a little above that. And that's where good electronics always comes into play with it. So guys, I'm going to have a little bit of video after this, so I'll be walking you through a couple different retrieves that I have where fish were hitting it. And these are at different tournaments. One's Hartwell that I've done that I've had a lot of success at with them. So guys, thanks again for watching. I hope you like the rest of the video. This is going to be another like 2-3 minutes of just talking about exactly what's happening as I'm fishing. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you on the other side. This is from Watts Bar. It was really cold. Water temp was really cold. It's unseasonably cold snap. I found some bass back in this marina. It was a little low spot. There were spawning flats on either side of this area, and they had pulled off those spawning flats or were waiting to go up and just hanging out down low. And as you can see, there we go, boom, there's one. I was reeling it, pausing it, reeling it, pausing it, and these fish would hit it on the pause. And the bite was super light. It was really just feeling weight on the line. Here we are again. There's the cast. Throw it out. I'm letting it hit the bottom. Now I'm reeling it, pausing it, reeling it, pausing it, hitting the bottom, reeling it, pause, reel, boom. And it's not even a boom. It's really more just like they picked it up. Like it slowed down, hit the bottom, and they were following behind it, and then they just sucked it up. and I just felt weight on it and then set the hook. And this was so important because of how they were hitting it. Now here we are on Hartwell, pre-fishing, throwing it out there. This is on a long point. Hit the bottom. I'm reeling it. Pause. Reel. Pause. Long pause because I want to hit the bottom. And what's happened is the wind's blowing me back a little bit, so it's making it a little tougher to do that. Boom! Did you see how I popped it right before he hit it? I think he chased it up and hit it at the very top of it. So, you got to mix it up a little bit because the fish are used to seeing wild things. Here we are. This is day 2 of the tournament. I'm throwing out to an isolated mound or submerged island. It's probably like 6 feet under the water. And I'm just letting it drop, letting it drop, letting it drop, letting it drop. Reeling it. Pause. Now letting it hit the bottom again. Reel it. Pause. Reel it. Pause. And it's important to have good rods and having braided line on this type of setup, just for the fact that you want to be able to feel everything. You see how I just opened the bail and let it balls, boom, and he hits it. I let it drop again because there was a little shelf and it got a little deeper, so I had to let the bail out to let it drop. And as soon as it dropped and hit the bottom, that's when the guy hit it. So it's really important. And if you notice right then too, with the rod and the sensitivity of it, I was almost setting the hook before the bail was closed. I mean, you're feeling the bite through the rod, through your line. So the transmission of that bite is coming a long way. So it's really important to have the right line, which is braided line. I like the 8-strand stuff, 20 pound to 30 pound, lighter, farther casting. And St. Croix rods, I mean, it just makes all the difference. And here we go again. I cast it out there. I reeled it a little bit. Boom! And he hit it. And as you notice, you just have to have it. It's the sensitivity that lets you know when you got that bite. And having that right line and having the right rod, I can't stress how important that is. Thanks for watching the video, guys. Please leave any questions or comments in the comments. And we'll see you out on the water.